Ready, start, para. It is generally considered that the history of the colonial period in India of the last 2 centuries is an unavoidable preface to an understanding of the present. It has a direct connection with the present, but I shall try in these lectures to suggest that even the more ancient part of the history of our country is relevant to the present. This can perhaps best be done by first discussing the image of the past, which has so far been generally projected, and image which on occasion has led to deeply rooted prejudice in the mind of both Indians and others. I shall then indicate the kind of evidence and interpretation which is forcing historians to reconsider this image. It is still popular belief that the Indians were an a historical people and kept no records of their history. The ancient Indians did keep records of those aspects which they felt were significant and worth preserving. It is true that of these records do not deal with political event and activities. They are more in the nature of legend and monastic chronicles, all legitimate constituents of a historical tradition, but not unfortunately very useful as a description of contemporary happenings. This latter type of record developed in the period after about AD 500 court chronicles and historical geographies of considerable authenticity were maintained by the Turkish and Mughal courts, and the tradition remained alive until recent time. So, when the Europeans arrived in India and began to look for histories of India, they found ample evidence on the period after about AD 1000, but the earlier centuries remained historically missing. Para. Even the factual records of this early period were written largely in the Brahmi script, which could not longer be read by Indians. Consequently, the discovery of the Indian past was initiated under the auspices of the new rurals. The British, a major contradiction in our understanding of the entire Indian past is that this understanding derives largely from the interpretation of Indian history made in the last 200 years. There is a qualitative change between the traditional writing of history and history as we know it today. The modern writing of history was influenced in its manner of handling the evidence by two factors. One was the intellectual influence of the scientific revolution, which resulted in an emphasis on a systematic uncovering of the past and on checking the authenticity of historical fact. The other was the impact on the motivation of history by the new ideology of nationalism with its stress on the notion of a common language, culture, and history of a group. Indeed, historical studies the world. Full stop. Over.